Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hi.
our class.
Thank you.
Christine.
Hi, friend Jane wants to join us. She's a
Yeah,
fairy of good luck, though.
she always comes, yeah,
She brings good luck.
Yeah.
right. So, Christina is from Light Oracle. She is a light worker, like we all are, right? And just shortly to introduce her, so it was interesting. As you know, Tracy, I'm not a big tarot card watcher, but she came across on my feed on YouTube, and she used to do those crazy free readings on Friday evenings on my end. It was always very late, but somehow I always called her. She's like, I think you did it like twice a week or once a week.
Maybe. I can't remember. It might. I do things differently every now and then. I change things up. But
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
crazy. And she was like, taking names and doing these free readings. And I just loved her energy. Just watched in the beginning, and then I started like, putting my name in the chat as well. And then she would read for me, and it was always spot on. And then that was 2019. And then I went to Mexico for New Year. And I thought, like, now I'm zone, right? I book a reading with her. And that's where we then personally met really face to face. And she did a beautiful reading for me. And yes, then we connected on Instagram. She said like, "Oh, YouTube doesn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. I change over." And I followed her, and now it chucked me out of Instagram. So it took a while to reconnect. But when we agreed to do this podcast, I was like, "Yeah, right. she she has a beautiful story to tell as well." So yes,
Oh, thank
Christine,
you.
please.
Okay, well, I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing in Shine Your Light Oracle at present, because as I mentioned earlier, it has shifted over time. I did start out on YouTube, and that's how I did meet you and many others who did follow me over to Instagram. But the universe sort of shuts things down to redirect us, and as my YouTube channel sort of shut down, I made the move to Instagram, where I'm finding a bit more of an intimate group. I read I do public readings as far as like general energies readings, which I do live on Fridays. But I also post zodiac readings as grouped by the elements, and then I started more recently posting mini love readings on Wednesdays, and as well I do private readings, and you can find out about those offerings on my website shineyourlightoracle.com. So what I found that my work tends to move toward, or the types of people that are drawn to my work are those who are discovering that they are light workers themselves, having moved out of a life where they had have found unfulfilling in various ways, but the universe is like wrenching it from their grasp,
Right.
as they did for me, as the universe did for me, and then how to transition from this old life into the new life, and then navigating that we find our sense of purpose, but also our healing. As well, it tends to also be those who are seeking support on their twin flame journey, because inevitably the realization or the acknowledgement of their twin flame within this life catalyzes this journey toward soul's purpose, light work, and healing. So
Right.
that's what I do. And on Instagram, I'm Shine Your Light Oracle as well. So it's,
So
yeah,
when
sorry,
you
go ahead.
when did you realize that this, matrix life, this, 3D life is not, not what happy? There, like a huge, experience that you just shook you, or was it like slowly creeping into your life, or how did that happen?
It was gradual. Like there was this moment where when I lost my job, I had moved from Philadelphia, as I had mentioned earlier. I was living in Philadelphia, and it was in Philadelphia that I met my twin flame in this life. And that sort of like got the ball rolling as far as like my relocation to California. And that was like the first step, whether I wasn't conscious of it, although my higher self, of course, was sort of guiding, like sort of pulling me on this path. I made the move to San Diego. I had a job in my former career in terms of design work, and I was also running a design showroom. And suddenly that was sort of taken away from me, sort of unexpectedly. Like everything else had fallen into place so effortlessly, and then for it to be suddenly like wrenched from my grasp, as I expressed earlier, was also, it couldn't have been anything but divinely orchestrated. But I had to surrender to losing everything, like really losing everything. The move from Philadelphia caused me to purge a lot of my old life because I had also been married and divorced. And honestly, it's only looking back that I realized that the divorce was also part of this awakening, of this realization that I need to love myself more, that I can't be hiding anymore. And because the hiding is actually more anguishing than it is to be truthful. And so as I moved out of that marriage, I started shedding the old life. Moving to California caused me to shed even more. And then losing the job really caused me to lose everything else.
It's like that phoenix,
as well as an idea. I'm sorry?
It's like the phoenix, right? Everything had to burn to the ground.
Absolutely. And it came in phases over time. And then when I lost that job, I found myself really, I was also starting to realize that something within me in terms of my mentality was changing, and that rather than getting back up and like searching the I say want-ads because I'm an old lady, but we don't have want-ads anymore. But rather than scouring the want-ads as I might have in that sort of like compulsive, like type A way, I found myself just wanting to be still. And pray and meditate every day and all morning, and actually surrendering as I woke up and asking, what do you need me to do? And that was a totally new thing for me as well. And it could be as little as going for a walk or praying or reading cards. And so when I did lose that job, one of the first things that I got was a deck of cards. And I really didn't know what to do with it, although I had sort of casually for fun watched tarot readers on YouTube. So I had kind of gotten a sense of the cards and started reading for myself, thinking that I could sort of foretell my own fortune as far as where I was going to go next, what job I was going to do next. And that was the Rider-Waite Tarot. As well, I was also reading a bit of Rebecca Campbell at that time. A friend had recommended some Rebecca Campbell books to me, as well had given me her Oracle deck, but as well, like the Tarot deck, I didn't know what to do with it. But I just started reading them for myself. And as far as how Shine Your Light Oracle came about, I had been reading for myself and happened to be talking to a girlfriend in New York who didn't know me, who knew me as in my old life, but didn't know anything about my curiosity about tarot or something other. But I did reveal that to her in a phone conversation, and she just said casually, why don't you send me a reading? And so I sent one off to her and didn't hear anything of it. And then a couple of weeks later, she requested another one. And so I sent it. And by the third time she asked, she said, you could be doing this for other people.
Right.
And that was I kind of knew that because as you do this, you become more and more in touch with your intuition, and you learn to trust your intuition. And that is also how the realization of all these other false structures, matrices, some might call it, or whatever, start to fall away the more in tune you become with your inner knowing. So I did start my YouTube channel as Shine Your Light Oracle, and just said, if I could just help one person, then that's the reason for
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And of course, since then, inevitably, when you're fulfilling your purpose, doing what you love, you help more than one person. And even though it has put me through some crazy situations, although this journey has been fulfilling and satisfying in ways that nothing that I had ever done before, even though I'd always tried to pursue lines of work that I liked and found interesting. This work has filled my cup in ways that nothing had ever done. Meanwhile, the rest of my life was falling apart, losing everything, and virtually and literally, I should say, being homeless even. As I was transitioning from this life to in the next life, I was kind of like having to trust that wherever I'm going is where I belong. At the same time, I'm reading cards for people online and whatever, but also trusting that wherever I'm placed is where I'm meant to be. And finally, I'm now in my own space where I can create more fully. And we had talked earlier before we started recording, and you'd asked what I do, and if I could just sort of in one way describe what I do, it is to serve as a messenger, whether as an oracle through tarot, but also through writing, creative and artistic expression through the written word. So that's about it in a nutshell.
So would you say you receive downloads? Like for me personally, I channel. A lot of times I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth. I really don't. It just happens. And then other times, you know, I use automatic writing, creative writing, and I'll start with like a key thought. And before I know it, I've channeled, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of a download that I know isn't me, because it's nothing that I would say or express. And so would you say you channel also, or do you specifically use the tools?
Absolutely channeling.
Yeah.
And so the way that I found that it has been working for me, and I'm sure each of you or anyone who is coming to this video experiences, I find myself awake in the wee hours of the morning, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, for a couple of hours. And although I'm not consciously like aware of what is being downloaded, I either get like a ringing in my ear, or sometimes it just feels like whatever. And then so I'm receiving those downloads, and then I find that it's when I'm awake, and that's why I tend to do a lot of my readings in the mornings, or if someone were to request a personal reading, I often do like suggest that mornings are the best, I'm clearest. But so the downloads seem to happen overnight, whether I'm awake or asleep. And then as I'm awake and preparing for the day, the downloads sort of filter into my consciousness. And then by the time I start reading, as you had said, I don't know what is going to come out of my mouth, and
Right.
often what does come out of my mouth surprises me. But then I'll also say, oh, that's why I was thinking that this morning, because
Right.
I meant to tell you blah, 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 blah. So in terms of like the writing, that is stuff that comes through in other ways, like in terms of notes and whatever. But when it comes to like channeled messages for whomever I'm reading, whether it's for the collective, this little like collective of mine that sort of gathers to Shine Your Light Oracle on Instagram, or to someone personally, I'll often get those downloads through the night, and it's articulated later that day. Yeah, that tends to be how it works for me. Or like, yeah, sometimes like a little hit, but yeah, things will come out of my mouth, and a lot of what I learned as far as about ascension and spiritual growth and healing has just really me hearing myself like, oh wow, I did not know that before.
Me
So
too.
it's just like
I'll
come out of
channel
my
for a
mouth.
client.
Yeah,
right? You're channeling
exactly.
for a client and you're like, oh, so that's why I've been going through what I've been. It's like spirit shows me that I'm on this journey with my clients. I'm not I'm not there. I'm right here.
Right.
You know, I go a little bit in front of them and then pull
Yeah.
them up with me. And so, yeah, I would not for a moment stop to say that I've reached my destination. And, but, you know, the way it was channeled to me is that, you know, you have your catalyst, which a lot of people term as twin flame or, you know, high level soulmate. I call them lab partners because, you know, a lot of us are true twin souls. Others are running a collective program. It's the new operating system. But it works. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but the twin flame journey really works as far as clearing your Akashic records, looking at who you are versus who you were, who you want to become. It's kind of a painful awakening for me, at least it was. But it works. And so there's a lot of souls that are here running that template. Um, Not all, in my experience, that are really in physical union,
Mhm.
and not really 100% certain that they souls chose 3D union. But then there are definitely those that you can see them, like I can see energetically where, you know, the masculine's going this way and the feminine's going this way, but I can see where the path is going to cross in the future, and that their soul mission is to have that physical 3D union to create a platform or create a mission. So would you say that you are in union
I
or
am not in 3D union with my twin. Though we scarcely contact each other in the 3D, but my feeling and my knowing is that we're not ever separated.
exactly
Our souls are one. Our
right?
consciousness is one. And I would not have believed in any of this if you had asked me 6 years ago. If you had told me about telepathy,
Right.
or that he can read my mind, or any of that stuff, I would not have believed you.
Right.
But the telepathy is very real and
I
very
know.
immediate between us. But I also, the more that I just travel along, um, I recognize the reasons for separation are important, but also wonderfully beautiful, because I am growing in terms of my own sense of self and purpose. Because looking back to the girl that I was when I left my marriage, for example, where I was hiding and uncertain and feeling, I this idea of self-love and self-care had totally eluded me.
Right.
Whereas now I know that I am love. You are love. Each one of us is a physical manifestation and expression of divine love. But I wouldn't have known that and understood that 5 years ago unless I had like progressed on
Well,
this
and you
journey.
know, the way they channel it to me is that separation is an illusion. And
Yes.
so it's a necessary step of the twin flame journey to be in separation, to prove to ourselves that you're never really separated. They're in your thoughts, they're in your dreams, they feel your emotions, you feel
Yeah.
theirs. No matter how many other people you date or be in relationship with, it's like they're always there. They're just there, you know, not
Yeah.
maybe physically, but
And
separation is an illusion.
that literally came through, and I did a mini reading this morning and posted it, and literally the message that came through, thanks to Neptune's having station direct, and also Gemini in full today, thank you, full moon in Gemini today. The wisdom and the knowing of this full moon in Gemini is seeing that for on one hand, as above so below, magician energy, but
Right.
also that the illusion is the separation. That separation is
Exactly.
an illusion, and that's thanks to Neptune stationing direct. But yeah, like I love this journey that I've been on, even though I long for and miss my twin. Where I've gone, I could not have predicted or anticipated, but I do love this journey, and I love, and it's put me on path to do this work and to
Right.
cross paths with the likes of you, thankfully, and those for whom I read, because I also, it's such a reciprocal exchange. I learn as much as through this work, as much as I hope others are learning from me. But also there's it had been also a healing journey, not just in terms of like my inner child wounding, but recognizing, at least I know I recognize the wounds of my ancestors, as
Right.
far, for my lineage. It's definitely about a scarcity and lack mindset that needed to be overcome, because it was like, I think of my grandfather even to this day. And you were speaking earlier, Tracie, about like not wanting to turn on the heat, and I would have been like that too, but that was my grandpa who
Right.
was afraid to spend the money, not
So,
knowing that it could come back, that it does replenish. The money
right.
always comes back. The abundance, the provisions, the sustenance is always there, as long as we are acknowledge that we are at one with it. So I
Right.
had to turn on my heat, recognizing that I had to cut that, in a sense, like, pattern.
Right.
Um,
Well,
and
and I've noticed, because I'm a twin flame ascension coach as part of what I do, and I've noticed that twins share trauma bonds. My twins' trauma bond was abandonment, and as was mine, it manifested in the 3D totally differently.
yes,
It wasn't the same experience at all, but it was the same trauma bond. And they're you and you're them, right? I mean, the twin is all about the mirror. It's like it's always been you.
yeah.
Do you, on your journey, have you gotten downloads about, like, through music? Because part of the reason why I asked you to collaborate with me on creating this podcast was, on my own personal twin flame journey, I felt so alone. That
Yeah.
abandonment wound. Like, nobody understands me. Nobody, sees things the way I see it. Nobody knows what it's like to be me, right? And if I tried to talk about my awakening or my ascension process or my purging or walking through the Akash, oh my God, like, spirit hammered me with past life recall, one after another. And I could just see all the trauma that I was here to purge and heal and clear for the ancestral line and my own, past lives. But I kept getting the song Michael Jackson, You Are Not Alone. And it would play
Uh,
on the radio. It would play at gas stations. I'd be filling my tank at the gas station. They're piping music through the speakers, and
yeah.
it plagued me everywhere I went. I was like, oh my God, why does this song keep playing over and over and over again? And so really that was, part of my inspiration for creating the podcast, for us, collaborating and creating it, is I don't want anybody who is awakening on this journey, whether it's twin flame or otherwise, right? Because there's lots of awakenings happening, and not all of them are that particular journey that gets you there.
Right.
But I don't want anybody to feel alone. I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to feel like they can't reach out and find a like-minded person, somebody who's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt and the beer koozie, right?
Right.
And so, my son will be coming home shortly, so he'll come in like a tidal wave. But I did want to ask you to please again give your Instagram a plug. What is the name again, the title of your Instagram account?
It's Shine Your Light Oracle, all one word, as well. My email, shineyourlightoracle.com, and my website is shineyourlightoracle.com. So thank you. for
So is there anything else you would like to say before we finish things up, and then we'll give the mic to Ju and let her wrap up her thoughts?
I just wanted to pick up on one little thing that what you said. It was a major thing about abandonment and separation, and it does kind of like circle back to what we were saying about illusion in general, whether it's from our twin or all other souls here and beyond, is an illusion. That separation is an illusion. And yeah, this trauma bond, sorry, I don't mean like air quotes, but the trauma bond that our twin, you and or I and my twin of the separation and abandonment is one way we can overcome it is recognizing that it is an illusion. But this isolation and feeling that we're so different is so real and so anguishing, and it is expressed in other ways. But yeah, I appreciate this podcast and those that are drawn to it. Thanks to you for creating it. But yeah, we are not alone. And in fact, the more we recognize that we are one, it also, yeah, we are bond.
I'm definitely going to be checking you out, because I until today I hadn't had the opportunity to meet you. Juice talked about you. She said great things. So I'm going to be going to Instagram and checking you out, and maybe I'll get a reading from you, and you can get one from me in the future or something, because one thing I've noticed is I can channel all day for other people, but when I try to divinate for myself, it doesn't always work so well.
Oh, really? Sometimes I have to like force myself to trust what I heard or whatever.
Right. Or yeah, not to see it through lenses, right?
Yeah, I think when we read cards for ourselves, there's a lot of ego there and the emotional attachment to it, right? So I experience it as well. I'm much more accurate for people I don't know in that sense, right?
Mm.
Or I'm more free, I guess. I let my higher self, take over. But here I am, trying to read for myself, and then ego kicks in and tries to fabricate something, and yet again an illusion, right? And doesn't let my higher self really, take over. So I think a lot of card readers have issues to read for themselves, and I think it's probably better that way,
I
because
don't
we
know.
can constantly read the cards. Imagine every step we take we would just read the cards. So
Yeah.
I know I get like addicted to it, so I think that's really my higher self not want me to be dependent on reading cards all the time, and try to integrate my higher self rather than try to interpret,
Right.
you know
But there is a place. There is a place for that addiction. That addiction, codependency to seeking outside of yourself for validation, is part of the realization that what you are seeking has never been out there. It's always been in here. And so, I cater a little bit to that addiction on my YouTube channel, not much. I created my Patreon account where I have a tier that's 1111, where it's all twins. I ask people not to join unless they resonate with being on a twin flame journey. And I never spy on the twin. Well, I shouldn't say never. I very rarely spy on the twin. It's all about doing our shadow work. It's about consulting spirit on what do we need to be doing to become the highest, best version of ourselves. That Empress energy, the rise of the divine feminine. Because right now, Mars is going retrograde, and it's what, till March or something? I mean, it's like forever long. And I'm pretty sure the masculines are going to be going through a lot of what we've already been through. It's kind of their turn, right?
I what we do for ourselves, we do for our twins, so we can kind of know what's going on with them as long as we can like if we're pursuing our purpose, we can trust that our person is growing and ascending similarly, maybe delayed
Yeah.
by a couple of years or whatever, but trust that as you grow and ascend, so too does your person as you are,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah, spirit showed it to me. They always give me visual effects. They showed it to me as the divine feminine was the one that was oppressed, suppressed in the patriarch rule. And so this is like we were recalibrating the distorted feminine, and it's the rise of the divine feminine. So she's like the train engine, and then she leads the masculine energetically with that soul song, right? It's like as she finds resonance and vibrational alignment with her true purpose and calling, they are magnetically, like the Empress, drawn to that energy, and so they follow up in the rear, is the way it was shown to me.
Okay.
So let's just
I'm sorry.
let's just say let's send love and support, right, for those masculines that are right now clearing their Akashic records, because there's a lot of their family ancestral trauma that they are now initiating clearing. You know, a lot of karmic contracts being broken and recalibrated as well. So I am so grateful to have met you. I wish this podcast could have gone a full hour, but Ju had some internet issues. She's clear over in Switzerland. So a lot of times, you know, it's a little bit glitchy with the internet. But I am so grateful we had you. And could we possibly invite you back in the future and have a longer conversation?
Thanks. I'd be
Yeah.
delighted.
I think it'd be interesting to see, you know, what we had on the podcast, you know, maybe what happened in the next, you know, after a year, you know, how much did we progress? How was the, you know, the journey again, you know, because it changes phases, right? And
Sure
and
does.
we grow,
Quantum leaps.
we constantly grow, and it
Yeah.
would be beautiful to see, you know, catch up with the people again and see, hey, how was life for you, right? So yeah,
Right?
so
I look
much
forward to
for
that.
your time.
Okay, so we will make sure to get all of the links in the description box of this podcast so that people can find you. And then Ju is going to be handling a Patreon account where for $1 a month, because you have to charge something. So we're just charging the least we could charge, because it's mission based, not profit based. If you would like to be listed in the directory that we're creating, you would have to join the Patreon at $1 a month to be listed. And then we're hoping that it's going to grow really fast. And eventually, a friend of mine, another divine feminine, who has created her own platform, like literally, like you can move your videos to her platform, talk about anything you want, and nobody can demonetize you or deplatform you. She's already purchased it. She's already got it all set up, ready to go, but she's facing some health issues right now. But I would like you to meet her and discuss it with her before we decide whether or not that's where we're going to take this in the future. But it seems like it came along kind of serendipitously, just at the right time. And it might be where Spirit's guiding this, but we're going to kind of get in the boat, tuck in our arms and legs, and see what happens, right?
Exciting. Let me know whether it's platform.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Ju. Would you like to say anything in wrapping up?
I think that, yeah, so we'll be distributing this podcast, you know, to different platforms. I will send you all the links. And yes, I mean, it was beautiful to connect again, right?
And please share, if you don't mind, please share it on your platform. And, you know, Ju can share with you the link to our YouTube channel. And if they're interested, they could subscribe and support the movement.
Absolutely. So grateful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste, guys.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.